Hello, and welcome to Job Search 360, Networking, Start Here. My name is Rachel Bernard, and I'm the Director of Graduate Career Development with GSAS Compass. This session is quite short, and it basically addresses how most students react when we recommend networking, or students who come to us for a networking appointment. A lot of times we hear, we know that networking is something we're supposed to do. I've heard that it's helpful, but either I don't know what it is, or I don't know how to start, or it makes me uncomfortable. So this session is to explain what networking is, try to demystify it a little bit, and try to give you the confidence to begin your networking process, especially if you're an international student who hasn't had experience in the US job market before. So hopefully by the end of this brief session, you understand what networking is, why it's important, and start to feel comfortable giving it a shot. So first, why do I need a professional network? And what is networking? So networking is really a professional community. It's the process of building that community. And the community is people who, in one way or another, share or help support your professional goals. So that's what a network is. It's a community. And the process of networking is building that community, which I'm sure is something you do in all sorts of other ways, whether it's your social networks, your academic networks, all the different communities that you're a part of. Networking is the same kind of thing, just having to do with career and professional issues. So first of all, there have been lots of studies done on networking, and they show that in the US, between 70 to 80% of jobs are found through networking. And that can mean a variety of things. What it doesn't mean is that you met someone, you hit it off with them, and they offered you a job. So instead, I'll explain some of the ways in which networking helps you actually land that job. And first, I'll talk about the short-term goals of networking. Primarily, networking is a research tool. So it can help you to research and learn about career paths and industries, and even particular organizations that interest you. So if you talk to somebody who's in that career and learn something about it, that's networking, and that research helps you be your candidate. It can also help you to assess the fit for your skills and values. So there might be a career path that you're interested in, and first you're not sure if it's really the right fit for you, or you might be sure, but through your networking, you learn that maybe there's a skill gap and there are a few things you need to learn. So again, if you have a conversation with someone and learn that there are additional skills you need to enter that profession, that's another way that networking can help you get a job. Next, it's great practice for strengthening your pitch and your narrative about yourself. And so this is kind of thinking ahead to job interviews. So if you're networking, if you're talking to people, you're having to talk about yourself, explain your background, explain your interests, and just have conversations with people who are in that career field that you're interested in entering. And having those conversations is practice, and it's lower stakes practice than an actual job interview. This overlaps with the next bullet point, that you're really practicing your interview skills, whether you realize it or not, when you're networking. And it can help you improve just your job search skills. So you might even get tips about things that are important on resumes in your field. Or another question we get from students a lot is a cover letter important? And the answer to that question is very field and even company specific. So again, if you can get some of these questions answered through conversations with other professionals, that's going to be really helpful. Some longer term goals are building these professional relationships that can later on connect you to jobs and new professional opportunities. So, as a student, you're probably thinking about what you're going to do first after you finish graduate school. But the connections that you make now can be long-lasting relationships where years and years down the line, or maybe even just the second job you get after graduate school, could be a result of the networking that you're doing as a student. It also helps you to create a network of colleagues to share advice and resources. So even if the ultimate goal at different points in your career isn't getting a job or changing a job, still, it can help with your professional development and growth and just general fulfillment if you have a network of other people who share your interests. And finally, it can help you find out about what we call insider employment opportunities. And this is where, when you're searching for a job, you're going to be looking on all kinds of job boards, and those are published public opportunities. But sometimes through word of mouth, you can also find out about opportunities, whether it's something that hasn't yet been posted and you can find out about it in advance, or even if you really build a relationship with someone, sometimes opportunities can be created that fit your particular background and skills if they match with that organization. And so that's where these really deep connections can pay off, even in these opportunities that wouldn't be necessarily publicly listed. So these are a whole range of goals, but I think the bottom line in terms of when you think about networking is thinking of it as a research and community building tool. So here are just kind of a couple of notes to keep in mind as we're thinking about networking. First, it's only one method of job searching. So that statistic said that 70 to 80% of jobs are found through networking. We always recommend that when you're applying for jobs, you apply to jobs both at organizations where maybe you know someone or maybe you hear about it through your network, but also just apply online, send your resume in as well. So I think a good strategic job search incorporates networking, but doesn't exclusively use networking. Another thing to note is that I think for networking to really pay off, both in that sense of fulfillment and also in the sense of actually getting jobs, you need many substantial relationships. So it's both about the number of people you're meeting and then also the length of time you know them, how deep those relationships go. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not something that by the time you graduate, you'll have your network established and that's it. It does take time. And it should be fulfilling and rewarding because you're building that community of people with shared interests. There are no shortcuts. We'll talk about in this session and in other workshops in this module, we'll talk about some of the methods for starting these relationships, but it does just take time. So again, it's not something, especially if you're in your master's program, that's only 1 year, you're not going to have your network solidified by the time you graduate. But it's something that it takes time, it takes follow-up and follow-through. Related to that, it's important to be strategic when you're networking. So when you're speaking with someone, you can kind of have a sense during that conversation or by the end of the conversation, whether your interests are aligned and whether you actually think that person shares your professional values or whether you have a good, fulfilling conversation or not. And if you find that someone, for whatever reason, you're just not on the same page, or you talk to someone and realize that, actually this organization doesn't seem like it's a good fit for me, that's okay. Thank them, you had a great conversation, but you don't need to feel like every single person you meet needs to become a part of that network. So you can definitely feel, and we hear this from students too, that you get fatigued meeting with so many different people. But if you think about even, it's kind of like how friendships work, that you have some very close friends who you invest a lot of time in, and then you have many acquaintances or many people who you might meet one time, come in and out of your life. It's the same thing with your professional network, that you don't want to spread yourself too thin. And then again, good networking can lead to referrals. This is another question we get from students very often, is getting referred to jobs or internships where someone who you've met with before can put in your name when you're applying to an opportunity. So that can definitely happen. But again, back to that shortcut point, it usually doesn't happen right away. So usually you have to have a bit of a relationship with someone before you can ask them to refer you to a position. And so this is another point just to think about starting that networking process early, because the idea is you want to be building these connections before you're actually applying to a job, so that when it comes time to apply, you have that foundation in place and you can tap into your network at that moment. So this is something I've kind of been addressing, but now I'll say it explicitly, the different kinds of networking. And I think this is where networking can make people feel uncomfortable. And this is transactional versus relational networking. And I think it's this transactional networking that can make people cringe and feel like networking is something that they don't want any part of. So transactional networking is using people to move up in your career. collecting business cards, just kind of, going to, you can imagine someone at a cocktail reception, just collecting 20 business cards, thinking, how is this person going to, be helpful to me? And really emphasizes quantity over quality. So again, that could be spreading yourself too thin, just meeting lots and lots of different people, and thinking of it in a very transactional way of just how can this person help me in this moment? Relational networking is what we're encouraging here. And this is that community support building. And so it's that you're building relationships over time and thinking about how people can help support you over time. And it's reciprocal too. It's also how you can support them. Whereas transactional networking is just, I want to think about this one job search. And the most effective form of networking, and again, the most fulfilling and the kind of networking that actually makes people feel good, is relational. So it's being curious about other people's backgrounds. It's thinking about the quality and depth of the relationships you're building, rather than the number of people you're talking to or the number of business cards you're collecting. So again, we're encouraging you to work to build relational networks that will help you in the long term throughout your career. So finally, I'm just going to end this session with helping you think about who is in your network already. And so you have a network, and I'm going to tell you about the distinction between comfortable connections, which are people you already know, and warm connections, who are people you almost know. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. So even if you are an international student and just arriving here in the US for the first time, you already have a network, and those are your comfortable connections. So it is your peers, it is your classmates, people in your program, other graduate students across the university, people you're meeting in student groups. Those people are the beginnings of your network here. If you went to school in the US or not, parts of your network also are people from undergrad. So those are people you already know who maybe you haven't talked to them about their professional goals before, but they are ready to be tapped. So those are comfortable connections. Also, the program staff and faculty. So the directors of academic administration, your program and department administrators, your faculty, your advisors, directors of graduate study, master's program director, whoever ends up being your advisor, people who teach the seminars that you're in, other faculty in the department. These people, again, they're all part of your network already. Also, think about former colleagues and employers. So if you worked before coming to graduate school, then you already have a bit of that professional network. And you can even tap into that professional network if you're looking to change careers. So those people don't just disappear from your life. They're still part of your professional network. And even if you went straight from undergraduate to graduate school, still, if you had a campus job, if you had any kind of part-time job or internship at any point, those people are also part of your professional network already. If you have a LinkedIn profile, and I encourage you to watch one of the other workshops in this module on using LinkedIn effectively, but any first degree connections, so those are the people you're already connected with on LinkedIn, those people are also part of your network, because in one way or another, you should know them. Finally, friends and family. And I think this is something a lot of students don't think about, but even though, again, you might have, obviously these are your social connections, but when it comes time to explore careers, do research about careers, apply for jobs, think about what these people do professionally and if they can be helpful to you in your search. So tapping into those social and personal relationships to help you in your professional life as well. So warm connections are, I think of them as people you almost know. So they're people who you could very, very easily meet or get introduced to. And some examples of people in these categories are alumni. So the idea is that someone who shares an affinity with you. So this could be a Columbia alum. So it could be an alum from your department. It could be another alum from the graduate school, or just someone who went to Columbia University as an undergrad or in a different program. It could also be alumni from your undergraduate institution. So I'm not necessarily talking about people you know already, but someone who shares that affinity where you could easily, if you were to reach out with them, you reach out to them and say, oh, I went to the same, I also graduated from this college. And then they're just likelier, because you have that connection, that affinity, they're likelier to help you out and talk to you. Another warm connection is guest speakers or event participants. And so this is why one of the things we talk to students about is taking advantage of all of the opportunities here at Columbia, of going to events, going to conferences. And it's a form of networking, even if in the moment you're passively sitting in the audience listening. If there's a guest speaker who you're thinking about later on, maybe they work at an organization you're really interested in, or the research they're doing is really interesting to you. Because you went to that event, they're a warm connection, which means you can reach out to them over email and say, I attended this presentation you gave or this panel that you were on, and I was wondering if you would have time to chat. So again, this is someone who you almost know because you have that warm connection to them, and it'd be very easy for you to actually turn them into a comfortable connection, someone you actually know. Also professional association members. So it's great when you're a student to join whatever disciplinary society, or so, if there's a data science society or the Modern Language Association or the American Historical Association. Most of these organizations have student memberships that are either free or very low cost. And again, anyone else who's a member of that association, and sometimes there are thousands of other members, are people who you don't know yet, but you almost know them because you can easily be connected with them. And finally, second degree connections on LinkedIn. So these are not the people you're connected with, but they are the connections of your connections. And again, to learn more about how to tap into that network, view that workshop that's part of this module. So that's all we have for today. I hope that now you feel both that you have an understanding of what a professional network is, why and how it can be useful to you, how to maybe start building your network while you're here, and that you feel a little bit more comfortable embarking on your networking. I encourage you to watch the other videos in this module. There's one on conducting informational interviews or coffee chats, and another one on using LinkedIn effectively. I also encourage you to just get involved and really build at least that peer network while you're here at Columbia, both because it'll help you have a more fulfilling time and experience as a graduate student, and will help you in your professional life throughout the rest of your career and beyond. So thank you so much for joining today, and hope you have a great time networking and building your professional community.